Peace and love, everybody. Welcome. That's the winter wren. One of my little friends who lives out here. That's not the recording of that little one, but hey, Brother Ed. Hey, Quiet Energy. Evaluate, Angel, and Rebecca. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. So, peace and welcome. We had a big event storm in Maine this week. And so from Thursday till yesterday evening, we didn't have power or internet. I'm glad to be able to be here. But as a result, I wasn't able to write anything. So I thought to myself, what am I going to talk about this week? Let's talk about ghosts. Let's spend a little time today. I'm going to go over some of the things that have happened to me, ghost stories. And then I'm going to end with how I learned to help a particular ghost go home. So if you had a ghost experience, put it in the comments or put it in the chat. Welcome to everybody who's watching live and to those who are going to see this on video. I'm glad you're here. I hope everything's good this week with the sound and the lights and everything. Let's see. Sylvester, Carolyn, KT, and Trusto 101. Good morning, everyone. So, back when I was working in television, I also had a radio show. And this radio show was broadcast on a bunch of small stations around Maine and a couple other places. And every week, I would send a copy of the show to Armed Forces Radio Network in Riverside, California, for them to use if they chose to. It was a half-hour show on Sunday mornings. So in Boothbay Harbor, that's the backstory. In Boothbay Harbor, Maine, there is an opera house. And this opera house is, I think it was built in like 1894 or something like that. It's a very large building. It's 4 stories. Nowadays, on the bottom floor, it's a theater venue. People like Jackson Browne and other folks come and play there. It's really pretty fun. It's great. Second floor, there's a big, huge bar. And this bar is maybe 25 feet long with a couple of ends on it. So it's a wraparound bar. And then behind the bar is in the middle are all the liqueurs. And then there are 2 refrigerators, glass front refrigerators that have the beer inside, all bunch of selection of beers. And it's also a venue. So there's all these round tables that are there and a little stage for our local music night. So there's a piano there and folks will show up and bring their guitars and they'll sing songs and that sort of thing. And sometimes it gets rented out for events, which is what I'm going to talk about. So one Christmas several years ago, quite a while ago now, one of my friends decided to hold a Christmas party there, a potluck Christmas party, and she invited like 150 of her friends. Oh, it's great. So about 150 people agree, and I show up early. I came 2 or 3 hours early because I had this idea that I would get the people who were at the party to sing, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." This is during the Afghan War. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas from Boothbay Harbor, Maine. So I went to set up this recording equipment, microphones and speakers and stuff so I could check the sound and headphones and all this kind of stuff. So I got there pretty early to set up some gear. And I was in the opera house by myself. This is a 4-story building. It's very large. And I knew that there was a ghost who was there. Everybody in town had talked about the ghost. And so I knew that there was a ghost there. I'd never encountered this ghost before. So I'm up there by myself. Kind of my back is to the bar. And I'm setting up all the gear. And I turned around to face the bar for some reason. I was setting something up. And then all of a sudden, the 2 glass-fronted refrigerator doors simultaneously in exactly the same way opened up. And they stayed open, and then they both slammed shut really hard. Waboom! And I was completely startled. Oh my gosh, it's the ghost. So apparently there's a ghost that some people call Cliff, and Cliff has been known. There used to be an old player piano in the opera house. And Cliff was known in certain years like 1949, 54, and 77 to have made this broken down piano, player piano work. So just the other night, and this is what brought this to mind. Just the other night, I was at a musical show there. The local YMCA arts program put on an adult and children's musical, and it was really fantastic. They did a great job. But I was talking to one of the ushers, who I've known for a very long time, and she reminded me, without me prompting her, she reminded me of how she was upstairs, maybe on the third floor. I'm not sure exactly where she was, but all of a sudden, she was gripped in her upper arm by an invisible force, and she was shaken like and, quite the surprise it was for her. And the only reason why I'm telling you this little story is because lots of towns have places that are haunted. Where I grew up, outside of Boston, there was an old rundown apple orchard behind our house. Growing up with all sorts of different types of plants and trees and stuff, but there was an apple orchard there, and way down the hill from the apple orchard, down the long slope, was a house built in the probably 1850s or 1860s. It was super big, very ornate, towers on it, and the shingles on it were sculpted. It was a Victorian home. Maybe it was later than that. Now that I'm saying that, it's a Victorian home. It's a beautiful house, and there was 11 children who lived there with their parents. And in that house, there were a bunch of ghosts. Was it 11 kids? I'd have to think about that now that I said it. It's like, I don't know if there were 11 kids or not, but there were a bunch of ghosts, and I never encountered any of those ghosts, but these are some of the stories. So in the middle of the night, a bunch of bobby pins would drop down through the ceiling and land on a bed. One time, the mother was at the bottom of these long stairs, and no, she was at the top. She was at the top of the stairs. She was carrying the baby. She tripped over the carpet on the stairs, and the baby flew out of her arms down this length of the stairs. And suddenly, at the bottom of the stairs, appeared this woman who caught the baby and put the baby down. Stories like that, and didn't know what to think when I was a kid, except for that the next door neighbors would sometimes have to get up in the middle of the night to let the kids come and sleep in their house because they were scared. So this is a neighborhood sort of thing. Up on the top floor, they had nailed the top floor attic shut because there was the builder of the house maybe clomped around, and he didn't like people. You clomping, clomping, clomping. So a couple of decades go by, and it's the late 70s, early 80s, probably the early 80s, and it became a cooperative, a kind of commune where a bunch of people who were not related rented the space together and formed a community, and they lived in this place. And I got to know a few of them, and they started talking about the ghosts. Now, this is decades after that other family had moved out. They didn't know anything about the ghosts. The new people didn't. But yet they started talking about the ghosts, especially the guy on the top floor who was clomping around in his big, heavy boots making all sorts of noise. And they kept that door nailed shut. Okay. So that's my background in ghosts. It's not very exciting. Um, but there was this one time where I was a stilt walker in parades. So it was a fun thing for me to do. I still have the stilts in the barn, and I did a bunch of parades for maybe 10 or 15 years. And one day, some of you have heard this story before. I was at the Pumpkin Fest parade upriver in Damariscotta, Maine, upriver in Damariscotta, Maine. And I wasn't sure where the parade began because it was my first time being there. So as I sat and I was late, something was going on. I was late to leave my house, and the car was all loaded up. And I grabbed my iPad and I typed in Pumpkin Fest parade beginning or something like that. And what appeared first was an article, and the article talked about this Shriner, and Shriners are a fraternal organization, and you may recognize them by their fezzes. They wear those red fezzes, and they might drive little go-karts in parades. This is what these people did. So there was this Shriner a year or two before driving his go-kart, and they set up a ramp on this bridge. In between these two towns, there is a short bridge, maybe the length of an 18-wheeler plus a car. Pretty short bridge. And underneath that bridge is a tidal river. And tidal rivers, for those of you who don't know, are ocean rivers that flood up a channel and then on a tide come back out again. There's no fresh water in this river as far as I know. It's just a tidal river. And it's pretty wide just before it goes into under the bridge, and then it gets very narrow. So that means that there's a lot of water flow. There's it's a very beautiful place, but there's a lot of water flow through there. Over this bridge, in the middle of the parade, he's driving his go-kart, and they set up this ramp, and there's people seated on the sidewalk, kind of like this, and standing on the sidewalk, kids and everything. And pardon this, I'll be as not graphic about this as possible. The cart flipped over, he struck his head, and he passed on right there in front of everybody. I'm sitting in my driveway. I'm like, whoa, that's something, huh? And I'm like, I gotta get there. So I continue to look. Oh, yeah, here's where it begins. And I drove up, and I got to the parking lot. I'm close to the last person showing up in this parade, and it's a big parade. I got my stilts on, and I found my spot, and I was dressed as a corn stalk, which means that because it was a pumpkin fest parade, I had corn stalks on I had a stovepipe hat, and I had corn stalks wrapped around it, sticking up, and I had pinned corn leaves all over me, and I had put corn stalks on my legs and all sorts of stuff, and it was super fun. Uh, Anyway, I'm walking in this parade, going down this hill, and the kids are having a blast. I love the kids are running through my legs, and I'm doing twirls, and I could jump and dancing on my stilts, and it was really, really fun. It was the best parade I'd ever had. But I'd made a mistake earlier that day. Sometimes I make mistakes. I had to replace a bolt in my stilts, and I couldn't get the right gauge of bolt. That's what I stood on. I stood on a bolt. So I got a bolt that was just a gauge down, and the bolts usually lasted a year, and I replaced them every year. So just to be safe, and they usually lasted a year. So I decided, oh, and I couldn't get the right gauge, and I got to do this parade. So I got one gauge down, figuring I could do a single parade on them. Well, I came down this hill, and I was moving, whoosh, whoosh, with these big strides, whoosh, whoosh, and I get down this hill, and there's the bridge, and it's a double yellow line, and I'm to the right of the double yellow line because it's dangerous to walk in the yellow lines with stilts on because they're slippery. So I'm off to the right-hand side of that, and in the middle of the bridge, I see a couple of my neighbors who live down here, where I live. And I decided to do one of my tricks that I love to do, which is to take all this energy that I had moving in this direction, pivot on one foot, lift one foot up in the air, pivot on one foot, swing that front foot forward, continue with the momentum forward, stomp down on that stilt, and then take a big step, and then pull that other stilt up and stop short right in front of them. Like take all this momentum and go and stick my landing. It was super fun for me. So I do that. I spin, I stick my landing, and I'm maybe a foot from my friends whose toes are sticking out in the road because they're sitting down on the sidewalk. And as I do this, my right stilt broke. Pooh, that bolt sheared right off. Now, the wooden part didn't break. The bolt broke, and I was duct taped in also. So the duct tape ripped, but I had used what's called sail tie. It's something for sailors. It's a very thick nylon tube that's and probably cotton too. Anyway, so I took some sail tie and I tied my stilts to my legs in case such a thing would happen. I could slide down my stilt instead of a thing popping off my leg. So I was loosely attached. So the stilt broke, poof, and I slid down my stilt. And as I slid down my stilt, I I had several things happen at the same time. I saw myself from inside myself. I kind of went like this, right right over the edge of the guardrails. It's only a sidewalk thick, and I had all this momentum, and there was this guardrail, and I could see the water, and I had all this. I was going over. It was so scary for everybody that a friend of mine from college who happens to live in that town and happen to know him. And had a young fellow who he was with, as a lacrosse protege, and they split up on the bridge. My friend went to the right, on my side. The young fellow went to the other side, pulled his shirt off, and were on the railing, ready to go in after me. And this was all these things ran through my head. I saw the water rushing up toward me. I thought, "Oh my god, this is gonna be so terrible. This would be the second death here on this bridge. It's gonna make statewide news because I'm on TV. So it's like, it's gonna be a big tragedy, and I was gonna drown for sure because there was so much water flow through there, and I was wearing all these clothes, and I had big, huge sticks attached to my legs, which were going to drag me down. It was gonna be terrible. And as I see the water rushing up toward me, I have this experience of the water coming toward me and me going toward it, and I'm kind of going, and then suddenly I pop out of my body. And now I'm behind my body, and I'm looking at myself, and between me, my vision of my body, and my body, there is this large shape of a gray cloud, like this amorphous shape, and this it's right there, and I can see it. And and then my body collapses right to the ground. It doesn't go over the edge, it goes straight to the ground. And so I pop back in my body again, and now I'm lying on the ground with, I sprained my ankle a little bit, and everybody's gasping, and everybody's upset. And I'm okay, everybody, trying to make the best of it. "Hey, everybody, I'm fine. I'm not hurt at all. I'm sorry to scare you all." Big smile on my face, trying to put on a good show for them. And my friend, he comes running over to me, and he tells me what he had, and the young fella came over too, and the parade kinda stopped. And so I picked up my stilts, and I took them off, and I put them on my shoulder. My friend and I walked up the hill. "Oh, I'm all right, everybody." And on my twisted ankle, I'm like pretending that I'm okay. And I was okay. It was just a little tiny sprain, considering what could have happened. So we walk up the hill. We get to his car. I get in the car, and we're talking about what had happened. And my phone rings, and I pick up my phone, and it's a near death experiencer, a woman who had been suicidal because of her near death experience, because she worked in EMS, emergency medical services, as a paramedic, and she kept seeing dead people at all these accidents. And it wasn't that she was seeing the dead people, it's that they wouldn't leave her alone. You know that movie? Maybe it's called Ghost, where he's walking down the street and all these ghosts start following him because they can see that he sees them. Kind of like that, only in real life. And so they were tormenting her, not meanly, but they just wouldn't leave her alone. And she was a super hyper rational person. Has got her doctorate in biology from Columbia or something like that. So she is very rational, very organized, very motivated, very intellectual, and she's freaking out over this. She also had another profession as well as working on EMS. So I spent about a year counseling her through her suicidality around near death experience, because near death experience can cause people to be quite depressed, and it can cause people to think about, why are they here? Why stay if it's so beautiful on the other side? So I hadn't talked to her in a year. My phone rings. It's her. "Hey, what's up?" She says to me, "What just happened?" I say, I'm not sure what you're talking about, because how could she possibly know what just happened to me?" What do you mean?" "Well, did something just happen to you? Did you just get hurt?" I said, "Yeah. Why?" She said, "There's a guy in my kitchen. It's a dead guy. He just showed up here, and he told me that he was trying to save you. He was trying to help you." So meanwhile, I was pretty upset at this particular ghost, because I could see him. I thought he was trying to push me over the edge. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, he tried to push me over the edge of the bridge." She said, "No, no, 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 no. No, he didn't try to push you over the edge of the bridge. He shoved you to the ground. He saved your life." I was shocked. And how else would she know unless this guy told her, this dead guy? So then he shows up in the car. I can't really see him with my eyes, but I see him with my inner eye. I sense his presence. I know he's there. And then for the next week, he's just with me all the time. He's in the shower. He's not in the shower with me. He's in the bathroom with me. I'm taking a shower. He's walking beside me. He's near me when I'm on my bike. I'm driving in the car. I'm in my studio. I'm having dinner. He's like all around me all the time. And I don't know what to do. And I don't know what to do. So I called her back. I said, what do you do? She said, and you've heard this before in movies for sure. Tell him to go to the light. That's it. Tell him he doesn't have to stay here. And whatever it is, everybody forgives him. I know it was a shock to you. You died quite suddenly, but you don't have to stay here. All you need to do is turn to the light. So I did. I did it. I told him that. And he left. That simple. Years and years and years go by. This was when International Association for Near-Death Studies was in Seattle. I spent an extra week in Seattle after the conference because I had some book things that I was doing, book and speaking engagements. And I rented an e-bike. It's the first time I rode an e-bike. I rented an e-bike, and in Seattle, there's this super long bridge way up high, 300 feet off the ground. I don't know. It's really high off the ground. You probably know if you live there. And I don't think people ride their bikes over it very often, but there's a sidewalk on the side of it. And so I went on this long bicycle ride, and I'm coming back into Seattle. And as I round the corner, I see ahead of me some flowers attached to the bridge. And you know what that means. Somebody jumped. I see it on the side of the highway sometimes too, not because people jump, but because they've died there. So as I'm riding by these flowers, I was looking down, looking at the flowers and looking down this, whatever, 300 feet down, I have this overwhelming amount of sadness and darkness kind of passes into me. Whoa. So much so, I stopped, put the kickstand down, got off the bike, put the kickstand down, stood there, went back to the flowers, just felt with my body and my soul, just felt. And I said again, you don't have to stay. Just turn to the light. Just look for the light. Just turn to the light and go. The darkness went away. The sadness, the depression, the despair just went away. Got on my bike, continued on. So, those are my ghost experiences. Many people have ghost experiences. Most people don't talk about them because nobody wants to be thought of as crazy. But so many of us have them. Part of my work here is to bring our direct experiences of the supernatural, which is to me natural, into the public square. So that's why I'm talking about this today. So tell me I see that there's a whole bunch in the comments over here, and that there are possibility you can put them in the comments down below. I meant to say the chat. So we only have about 5 minutes to Mystic T Salon. We're going to meet at a Zoom link down below. It's in the show notes. You can click on that and come join us. We usually get 40 or so people from around the world who've had mystical experiences. It's a safe place to talk about these things. We don't record it. We have 5 rules: humility, compassion, kindness, authenticity, and experience. And we know it's not proselytizing, it's conversation. Because one of the things that happens in every mystical experience is that you get a dose of wisdom. And that dose of wisdom is embedded in your soul. It's noetic knowledge, noetic understanding. All right. I will talk to you guys soon. And one last thing. Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Monday, no meditation. I'm sorry. We lost power and internet for the last few days. I couldn't do any prep work for today or tomorrow. But tomorrow is the 100% solar eclipse, only a couple hours from my house, and I'm leaving super early in the morning, and I'm going to get there, and I'm going to go see the solar eclipse. And so sorry. There'll be an email going out tonight with a meditation from last week. You can check that out if you'd like to. And on Tuesday, of course, Kriya Yoga. And that's at my website, peterpanagore.love. Thanks for your support. I couldn't be here without that. I'm super grateful for all of you who've been giving support to me for the last 4 years. It is now coming up. I think it's 4 years. So thank you very much. Uh, I appreciate it. And thanks for your support here too. Peace and love to you. See you soon. Thanks. Yeah, we have good weather. I'll say that. Tomorrow is gonna be super sunny in Maine. I hope you get to see it, Sean. All right. I'm glad that you like this, everybody. Take a quick look over here. I do know about one of your experiences, Tom. Haunted house in Missouri. Third eye vision. All right, cool. So I'll talk to you guys later. We'll talk about this stuff at Mystic Tea. Peace and love to everybody.